Today, it is my distinct honor to welcome back to the show our Secretary of State and candidate for governor, Brian Kemp. Welcome back to the show, Brian. And first of all, Brian, I would like to just say congratulations on the outstanding job that you've done as Secretary of State. Your record is impeccable, one of the best records in the history of anybody in that position. And we greatly appreciate your service to the community. Tell me, Brian, what are some of your priorities going forward for if and when you are elected as governor?
Well, I'll just tell people, I know I've been on the show several times, but I grew up just hard-working guy from Athens. My wife and I were both from there. We have 3 teenage daughters now, and I first got involved in really running for office because I was a frustrated small business guy. I'd been in the private sector for over a decade, started my own company in 93. I built and developed and laid rock and got involved in a bunch of other different things, but I just really got frustrated with the government. So when you talk about kind of my record, my values, I mean, I certainly come from this as a father first, husband and a father, but also just a private sector person that's had to work hard to get what I got and has been through tough times and good times, which anybody, as you know, in the real estate business or construction world, that's just what you go through. It's the nature of the business, and you have to fight through the tough times and put some back in the good times and just survive. And thankfully, I've done that for 30 years. But I think in the Secretary of State's office, probably the thing I'm most proud of, it's not one single thing, but it's just fulfilling one commitment that I made to people when I was running, to actually do what I told them I would do. I campaigned on streamlining the Secretary of State's office using technology and private sector experience to do that. I also said that I would fight for our values and stand up for what we believe in here in Georgia, to have secure, accessible, and fair elections in our state. And in a nutshell, that's exactly what I've done. I mean, we have completely revamped just about every system that we have in the office, for good reason, and sometimes out of necessity. When we went through the recession, we reduced our budget 25%, lost almost 30% of our people, and we still had the same workload. So we had to figure out a different way to do business, just like you do in the private sector. So, we have a new corporate filing system that I think is the best in the country. We continue to work on it to make it better. We've had record years the last 3 years in a row of filing annual registrations. We now have an app where you can do your annual registration literally with one click of a button on your cell phone, if you want to do that, obviously on your laptop or your desktop computer as well. And we've had great reviews on that. It's reduced our call center volume, our times, our abandonment rates. It's also freed us up to process new filings quicker in our corporations division. And we're just doing really well there, working very hard. And we still have ebbs and flows depending on what the market's looking like, and we get flooded from time to time that bogs us down a little bit, but it's not near what it used to be there. We're doing very well over there. In our licensing division in Macon, we've completely revamped all of our IT hardware. It was just a disaster when I got there. We've done wholesale reorganization, restructuring down there to make the whole operation more efficient, whether we were processing new applications, doing complaint and compliance work, or just renewals on licensing. And it's been a painful process to get where we are. But we've made great strides there, even though, we don't always get the resources that we need. We're doing very well with what we got. And that's what government's supposed to do. It's what you have to do in the private sector. And then on the elections front, we moved off the state's old mainframe voter registration system several years ago. And literally since doing that, we have saved millions for the taxpayers, going to a private data center, going to a web-based system that performs better for the counties, does more work for them. So it's truly smaller, more efficient government. The new system's doing more work for the county registrars, and it's saving millions of dollars, and it'll continue saving money from what we used to have. And then we also have better cybersecurity, something that's very important in today's world. We're dealing with a lot of important information of the voters' personal information. And we have a network security provider now that monitors 24/7. We got the data center monitoring. We have our own people doing that. We every year are bringing in outside consultants and firms to look at cybersecurity, so we're not always relying on one voice there. We're having many people look at our system, which keeps us on our toes, keeps us up with the current environment. And then we're doing a lot of training, not only with our own employees in the Secretary of State's office, but also with the counties that are dealing with the voter registration system to make sure we continue to keep it secure. A good example of that is this spring, we did training at one of our conferences with the Department of Homeland Security. They came down to talk to the locals about that. And, you know, we in our office, in the Secretary of State's office, have done much training. Now we're focusing on the local level to make sure they take this just as seriously as we do. So, you know, all of that kind of work is what's made me proud, and then standing up to a lot of the groups that are trying to undermine the things that we believe in elections, like making sure that we check citizenship before people register to vote, defending our common sense photo ID law. Many groups from all over the country have targeted us on that. It's not Georgia-based groups, and we fought those and won, you know, suing the Obama Justice Department twice over the citizenship check to implement that. And we continue to fight those outside groups, because there's just people around the country that are, you know, literally have a lot of money that don't believe in the way that we do things. But I've always stood up and fought for Georgia values, and that's what I'll continue to do.
You've established Georgia as a national model for election security, and you've helped nearby states with their election security. Tell us a little bit about how you've been assisting other states nearby in their process.
Well, thankfully, we've been a leader across the country in a lot of different things. Securing our elections, a lot of the legislation that we've got passed, like the citizenship check, going to court to implement that on our voter verification process. We were one of the first states in the country to pass the photo ID law. I was actually in the legislature when that occurred, and then have been defending it as Secretary of State, and thankfully we've been able to do so. So we have a lot of people that look to Georgia to ask, what are you doing? You know, we passed a piece of legislation early in my career to allow the locals to start a process to remove people from the voter rolls that had deceased, because at the time they were having very slow response from the Vital Records Department getting death notices. So, you know, deceased voters would remain on the rolls. People would be vulnerable to someone voting for that person even though they were deceased, because they hadn't been removed from the rolls. So we've done progressive things like that. We've also implemented electronic ballot delivery for our military and overseas voters, so they have a faster process to be able to cast their ballot. And we were literally the first state in the country to do online voter registration. I mean, true online voter registration, where you actually go online, you put your information in, you hit submit, and the process moves on without you having to do anything else. There were other states that had where you could go to a place and click and print a form out, but you still had to fill it out. Now we have a system where you can fill it out online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And, you know, if you have your driver's license, you know, number, you can hit submit, and it'll send it to the county registrar, and the next morning that'll pop up in their dashboard on the system. They'll review and process the application, automatically generates a mailing of a precinct card, and you go into the system. So very efficient way to do that. And those things make it more secure, because if somebody has a driver's license, then we have their information, their signature, their picture, where they live, and their citizenship has already been checked.
Nobody else really has any kind of a system like that. You're a true innovator.
Well, I know we were I think the first state to do that. There may be others now, but we've had it in place for 2 or 3 years now.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.